Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle, and I gotta own up to something.
Yeah? Gotta get some guilt off your conscience?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, with the whole Pope thing, I've been feeling like, if the Pope can die, so can I. And I just am worried that I'm going to carry that guilt with me straight to hell when I pass away. Mm-hmm. I was at the Capitol January 6th.
Oh, okay. This is a pretty major revelation. How'd you avoid all those cameras and like film crews and everything? Because so far I've seen a lot of photos of supposed people there.
Yeah,
and have yet to see anyone that looks like you.
Yeah, there was like this Upright Citizens Brigade guy there, I think. Or whatever, or maybe
Mr.
he was
Show.
Yeah, Mr. Show. He might have been from UCB.
He might have been too, yeah.
But no, it was honestly terrifying. It was sort of like a Mr. Magoo or like a Mr. Bean situation where I'm like just trying to have a vacation at the Capitol on January 6th, and there's just crazy shit going on, and I'm sort of like, walking and, just past me, like a piano falls behind me and stuff, and it like absolutely KOs like some sort of like 4chaner or whatever, and I'm avoiding like gunshots and stuff. Did they shoot guns? I can't remember. But yeah, I was there. I didn't have anything to do with the stuff they were wanting to do.
Yeah, you just wanted to like look at the fucking Lincoln Memorial and shit, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to check out the memorial, and it was the wrong day for that. So I kind of wanted to get that out of the way up front because I felt really bad about it. But I promise you, I was just there for leisure time. We do have a guest in the house, and I feel like he should introduce himself now.
It's the Pope, and you are absolved, my son. Yeah, sorry. I know that's not normally your whole deal, being absolved by the Pope, just given the history.
Sure,
but if you want it, it's there. Low hanging fruit.
New Pope, new rules.
New Pope, new rules. He's absolving the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is
they need
it's
it.
High time. Yeah,
it's about time. That's
I was a bit. That was all a bit.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah, my name's Collin. I am joining here from the past, the present, and the future, the Father, Son, and the Holy. God, I fell back into it.
You just
again.
Keep going back to it.
It's really easy to devolve back
really
into Catholicism. Easy. Like it's kind of set up to be that way. That's how they keep you in the church.
It feels like it had been so long since we'd had Collin on the show, and I said to Niall, "Let's get that pious son of a bitch back on this thing."
And I'm glad you called. My Eucharist was burning. I was reading the New Testament. I don't know.
Hey, I mean, it's a coin flip on which one it is. You could say old or new, and you might be right.
I can't remember who likes which one. I feel like I like the new stuff. I thought maybe the Old Testament, while it kind of like iterated on the form, it maybe sort of lost some of the qualities that it made it intrinsically biblical. Sure. And I get why people have an easier time jumping into the Old Testament. Like it's more approachable. It's more like fun. It's sexier. But I don't know. I don't really have an opinion. My only opinion is that everyone should just make sure you consume both before you have an opinion.
Yeah, it's like you can't watch the rebuilds unless you've seen the original. People will say you should watch the rebuilds of Evangelion. You got to watch the original too.
Mhm.
And it is very Old Testament, New Testament, I think.
Same thing.
And by rebuilds, he is talking about the message, and that is that's a niche joke for you Christians out there.
Yeah.
I also, I my opinion on all of this is much like my bumper sticker says. I liked the Old Testament when it was called the Epic of Gilgamesh. And
that's a long bumper sticker.
That's a
I
cool
know
bumper
it's
sticker.
not it's one of those kind of ironic bumper stickers that's like a little unwieldy, you know.
Yeah.
That's from one of the like kind of jokey joke sites.
I have a bumper sticker that, now that I'm thinking about it, could be construed as being a biblical reference, although that's not how I initially thought of it when I picked it up. And it does say, "I break for snakes." That could be misconstrued by some people, but
Is that
I'm not
true?
making a statement.
That's not. Is that a bit, or do you have a bumper sticker that says? And I'm really sorry to part the curtain here, but that's a very cool bumper sticker, and I just need to know if that was like a cool joke or if that's a cool reality.
Okay, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, I don't have any bumper stickers. Although at one point I did have the Nerve logo from Evangelion on the back of my car. But
Doesn't surprise me.
the "I break for snakes" thing is a thing that my dad saw and thought it was the greatest bumper sticker of all time.
It's
He's
very
like
good.
obsessed with the idea of that bumper sticker. But he's so also morally is not the right word, but he's against bumper stickers on his own vehicles. So he would never put a bumper sticker on his car. But if he were to put one on, it would be that one, and because he appreciates the idea so much. So
It's like me and vanity plates. I would never put a vanity plate on my own car, but I have probably 30 photos of vanity plates I've seen on the road. I really appreciate just cataloging some of my favorites. Current favorite running is Chai Gma, Chicago Grandma.
Oh, no.
Chai Gma.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that vanity plate coming on 69 Dan Ryan and back in on a late night after visiting Indy. I loved it. Thought it was a lot of really good.
What about CHIGUY, Shy Guy?
That would be, if that doesn't exist, it is Tim. It is
that's-
Aces.
That's Collin's new vanity plate.
I'm gonna just put it up over, get it printed as a vanity plate, not for my car, but to put over my bathroom. Just that's
Have you all seen the and it might be an Illinois thing, but they release the declined, like some of the selections of the declined vanity plates because you have to get them approved.
Yes.
And then they'll like release like, it says like DXXSUX and they'll be like dick sucks X error. Like they'll say like what they think it's referencing directly, and it like has the comment that the person who tried to purchase it said like, "Oh, I'm a developer like DX design and I think it sucks." Like I'm being kind of like and they're like dick sucks. No.
Yes, I have
actual
seen
reference
those.
denied.
There was
the
one that I'll never forget is it says like fuckers or something. They like tried to submit fuckers, and when they provided the context, they claimed that it meant for Uncle Charles, and they were just like, fuck, denied. Like that's one of my personal favorites.
Fuck, denied.
I don't really have a good bridging topic here.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I don't have a good topic today, so we might as well just keep doing this.
Oh yeah, let's just talk about vanity license plates for an hour. No, I do have a topic today. I didn't have a good bridge from vanity license plates or Chicago to
or
this
religion.
topic.
Religion feels like it has the potential to be a bridge, but if it doesn't, then we're just too far afield.
Much like our podcast, this piece of folklore did get kind of infested with Catholicism at some point in its history. So we'll go with that. This is actually a topic that was requested in our Discord. We do have in our Discord, there's a suggestion box, and people have put in topics for us to cover, and we get to them at some point. So thank you to Bone Fruit in our Discord for this request. Today I wanted to dive into the history of La Llorona. Which is the weeping woman of Mexican, Spanish, various Latin country folklore.
I know there's multiple movies associated with that name, and I've always assumed that it was basically a Mexican woman in white, but like beyond that, I don't know what La Llorona actually is.
You're not okay. So the short answer is it's a lot of things, and one of those things is a heavily kind of indebted to the kind of woman in white leanings.
To also, Colin, just for you, the woman in white, you might be able to kind of guess. It's like a spirit that it manifests as a woman in a white dress typically, and usually there's, she died tragically or she had a child that died. Usually there's just tragedy surrounding the woman.
They're kind of like the apparition banshee, sort of like floating in the mist, like a classic specter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a classic, like woman died, pure white dress showing the purity. The death was tragic.
Yes. I do believe that's exactly, you nailed it. Yes.
Yep.
That sounds, I get that one. That one I get. I can log that one away.
I figured that was a good enough starting point that we can now delve into the history and it'll be interesting and we'll all be on the same page for where we're starting here. I do want to give a quick shout out to one of the main sources of this episode, a series of articles on the Library of Congress website, written by author Stephen Winnick, along with a couple other places. But the Stephen Winnick articles on the Library of Congress are fantastic.
Hell yeah.
It's in like the folklore section of the Library of Congress's blog, which I didn't realize was a thing before this, but it's actually like pretty well sourced and like well written and very extensive. So it's fantastic.
That's crazy that like years ago when I first got on this podcast, it was like just chewing the chud and chatting the shit about some crud we found deep in the bowels of the internet, and now Niall's here like, my primary source is the Library of Congress. What the fuck happened? Huh?
Yeah.
Like what happened?
Here's the thing. This is the thing that Kyle and I talk about off mic a lot, where like our episodes used to be about 45 minutes long, mostly fart jokes and like about three pages of research.
Yeah, maybe 15 minutes discussing the topic that we brought to the table. Maybe.
And now we regularly go between 60 and 90 minutes, have between 10 and 30 pages of notes, and are referencing like Kyle. I went down a fucking trucker forum for one episode one week. Kyle is like dove into the Internet Archive. It's really been a progression over the last 6 years, however many years it's been.
It's been more than 6 years now. I'll tell you that.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So yeah, today let's talk about the history of La Llorona, which is pretty colloquially known as the Weeping Woman. So like I said earlier, there are many versions of the story. They largely fall into two camps. And that is like just this kind of spectral entity that is like this kind of omen to basically your kind of your boogeyman for children kind of stories where don't misbehave or be out late at night or wherever. And because then La Llorona is going to attack you or take you or whatever. Or there's also then the kind of roaming spirit that is you can accidentally come upon the side of the road. This is more your woman in white story. So in one case, it's kind of the witch in the woods, and in the other case, it's the kind of woman in white. However, there's so many subdivisions inside of that, and so many different things. The history of this thing dates all the way back to like in terms of like sources that we can find, like the 1500s, and some people will trace it back even further, linking it to like Greek mythology and various other places. But it largely it dates back to like the 1500s. And there's a specific text that we'll get to later that is the first recorded instance of what people consider the origin point for this mythology.
I feel like if you were to try to collect data on the origin stories surrounding a lot of paranormal and even cryptozoological entities, if you were to try and collect the data points there and find the most common origin stories for these tales, these folklore kind of tales that develop into like a ghost story, I feel like you would probably skew heavily towards we started telling this story to make children obey and not go out at night because, they could be killed or whatever like that. And I, because it's like you either have that origin point for a lot of these stories, or then you have the completely like totally singular, like you cut off the nuts of a devil baby and it turns into two grunches, like, which there's no other creature that shares that that origin story. But does that kind of make sense?
Like there is a lot of kind of fear of the other to kind of use as a boogeyman in these stories. Like a lot of it is the amount of culture that is derived from scaring children is kind of ridiculous when you think about it.
Yeah.
But it's out there. It's so much stuff is.
And it's even today. This isn't like a thing of antiquity. Like it is a modern thing as well. Like I would say that Santa Claus, similar vibe, pretty modern. That's the
like, carrot instead of the stick. But yeah,
exactly. And but it's like the stick too. So you don't do something good, and it is it's the coal. It's like you have to be good. He's watching you all the time. Like, I don't know. And that's just like one extremely high level thing. But it is interesting to also see that I agree we're not as much of a culture based, or I guess culture in general, with the interconnected like world that we live in now due to technology and the sort of ease of access of communication standards. Like, it's not as much of an oral tradition. It's more of like a written tradition, if anything. But this is still really common. Like I mean, I have a kid, right? And like all the books that I'm reading are also, they're trying to teach stories through like fake characters. It's instead of being like movies for kids, it's like, I don't know, I'm reading like the Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Like it's a kind of it's a similar vibe. It's like it's more telling a story than it is trying to say like, don't go out at night or else the grumpus is going to come rip your throat out. But I think we maybe got a little more violent with it. But
I think the more violent non-carrot versions of those stories are more closely associated with like older cultures. I mean, like if you, even with Santa Claus, if you look over in Europe, there's places where Santa Claus basically exists to say, oh, you be good this year or else this Yuletide demon will come and put you in a stew and eat you. Like
100%. Yeah, we're all soft. Like our generation is too soft.
And that is the point I was kind of trying to get to. This is the pussification of the American children is what I was kind of trying to get to. So thank you for pointing that out, Colin. Thank you.
That's what your sign was talking about up January 6th. That's why you were there. You didn't care about
entirely
the election.
Unrelated.
You were just like, our babies are all pussies.
That's exactly.
Toughen up our babies.
Apparently some photos of me there are leaking out because Colin has in fact seen my my January 6th accoutrement, if you will.
Yeah. So some trademark things of the La Llorona encounters. There's a lot of variation in this. There's a bunch of different versions of what you see because as we get into this, there's like a million different things that have kind of coalesced into this folklore. But sometimes largely she's going to be a woman in either a white or black dress with a veil over her face usually. And she's going to be kind of forlornly wandering out in the wilderness or wherever you're seeing her. And however, sometimes she will be either riding a horse or on a horse-drawn wagon. But a lot of times those are when you're in a car, you'll see that. So like it is interesting how sometimes these ghost stories kind of change to reflect times because the horse stuff didn't really start until vehicles were a thing. But anyway,
are there any reports of I'm sorry, can you give me the name one more time?
La Llorona.
La Llorona. Is there any reports of La Llorona on like a Lime scooter nowadays? Has it become more modern?
God, I wish. Because there are still sightings of La Llorona like now. Like this is very much an active piece of folklore. It is still a thing that is well known around the planet. And especially in Spanish speaking countries, it still is like a piece of the local folklore. It's like, and so like, I really would love for someone to modernize it to the point where, It's you see La Llorona around in a zip car,
You're
Like
making me realize something, because I now need to discover what the delineating factor is between modern transportation technology being scary and not scary. Because like, if La Llorona was coming after me on one of those rent-a-scooter things that you just mentioned, that would be funny as fuck, and I wouldn't be afraid. And she'd probably get me because I'd be laughing, right? Like, she'd, do her ghost attacks or whatever that she does. But like, if she's doing like some midnight meat train shit and she's just like on a train late at night, that's still scary. If she's calling an Uber and she's my Uber, like I'm co-passengers with her, that's not that's kind of funny. That's not very scary.
Does she tip well? Like, it does like splitting the Uber X or whatever the pool is?
Maybe the horror comes from the anxiety of having to cover her side of the tip because she sucks so bad at tipping.
Yeah. And she can't stop crying about children, her missing children.
Right.
And so it's a really kind of a bummer of
it's
a passenger.
Awkward. Yeah.
Yeah. So La Llorona is, as you talked about the woman in white stuff, La Llorona is very much tied to children. The most forms of the origin story for La Llorona involve child death in some form or fashion, whether she does it intentionally in a fit of rage or sometimes unintentionally. And sometimes the children are murdered by her cheating husband. That's like, there are a lot of different versions of the story. But she is tied to children and will sometimes either kidnap or attack children depending on the version of the story.
That doesn't see now there. That's a little confused. I guess you said sometimes her origin story is her attacking children. I was going to say, if like she had her children taken away from her, which is usually how I imagine like a ghost woman, then why would she attack them? But I guess this depends on the variant of the story. I assumed she was more bridal because you said she had a veil. And maybe she attacks like
the veil
husbands.
is like mourning.
Oh, okay.
It's more of a mourning thing, because So let's just get into the most common story of who La Llorona is and like the actual the origin story, because this will give us a good setup to go forward. So largely, this is one of the most common versions of the story that you'll find around. La Llorona was a woman named Maria who was born to a peasant family in a humble village. And she was very beautiful. She started to capture the attention of the area's men. And she would supposedly go out, and you can really rank the different origin stories of La Llorona by like the level of how much they hate women. Because it will vary between she likes to go out and like catch the eye of men versus sometimes she will basically be sold to a rich guy. And there's everything in between those two. And in the most common version, she is alluring. She ends up betrothed to a rich man who has a couple sons. She ends up having a couple sons, and this husband started to kind of not really consider her anymore. He started to pull away. In some cases, he actually has an affair, and she finds out. In other cases, he just has no time for her and only cares about the children. And then eventually, through these different, whichever way you want to go, she snaps, and then either through accidental grief, the children drown, or she actively drowns the children, depending on the version of the story you get, and then also will then kill herself. And that is the origin for how this comes to be. In various versions, it takes different. There's a lot of different specifics that you'll find, but that's the gist of most of these stories. So she just now wanders around looking for her children. Yeah.
There's a lot of like strife wrapped up into kids dying, which regardless of whether they're killing them, they're being taken away, like what's it? But I get it feels like a more common thing. It's like, I understand that a lot of these stories also have or these folklores have a lot of like, you're teaching children about something. Mm-hmm. Again, it's like the stick instead of the carrot. But I think another large part of it is a sort of a communal, like grieving, like a way for people to grieve losing family members, or specifically like young innocent children, whether that's through like a parent's, actions or inactions, but like I can see how in a time whenever infant mortality rate was higher, like diseases were harder to cure, like accidents were more serious. A little cut can turn into septic, can turn into a disease, can kill you. Like, again, like not to talk about the fact that I'm a dad in the first 20 minutes of a recording, but like it's a different thing where like even just now Niall saying like drowned kid, like before I had a kid, I'd be like, oh, that's like sad, tragic. Now it's like my back starts tingling. Just like somebody saying that makes my body like physically react. And I could see if you're in a culture where it's like child mortality is pretty common, you want some kind of like framework to parse that fear.
I am getting our receptionist to take a note here to remember, the optics of bringing one of the few dads we know on the show to talk about the baby killer ghost.
Yeah, the child death ghost. Yeah,
but I will say, I think you're absolutely right. And I mean, hearing this now, it is one of those things where the especially enduring ghost stories have to be wrapped in intense tragedy to kind of sustain throughout, centuries or decades even. I mean, like, I think the most the longest running stories about ghosts that we've talked about on the show are usually accompanied by the most intense tragedies. Like, I think of the woman, there was one about a woman who just gets like fucking, I remember there was one about a woman who like gets beheaded by a crazed murderer and her ghost.
Yeah, the phantom carriage.
Yes, that one. Yeah, it's like, it's always really super intense because you have to have an explanation of like why that spirit would aggressively linger back on instead of passing on or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
yeah,
but also the grief thing too, exactly as you said. I think that's accurate.
Well, and this one kind of also feels like one of those things where it's like Collin was saying, back in the time period that these were starting, you had, children would go missing unexplainedly. They would wander off, and animals or whatever. And having something like La Llorona is a good way for people to then make sense of the unknown, where it's like, it's not that we don't know what got the child. We know that La Llorona stole it.
Yeah.
And
then when you hear, your family hears that the neighbor's kid gone missing, you can then tell your kid, who you don't want to see go missing in the same way, that the spirit of La Llorona took them. And so you have to, not fuck with the outside after dark, because that's when La Llorona's around,
Yep. So that's like the kind of folklore explanation. There's like, in terms of history, there's two places that people will kind of point to that influenced this legend in different ways. And like, this is where we start to break it up at the Atlantic. We have on one side, we have some stuff pulled from the Aztec goddess Chihuacotl. And on the other side, we have the story of Doña Marina, better known as La Malinche, who is the lover of Herman Cortez in Spain. And she is where the like drowning her children as a revenge for her spurned husband kind of thing. That's where that side of it comes from. Whereas the like wandering revenge, this like wandering spirit thing comes from the Aztec side of things. And it's this line where La Llorona almost encompasses these two different folklore things into one thing, which is what makes that kind of like confusing as to whether she's vengeful or just sad, It makes this weird duology inside of the La Llorona legend that makes it kind of muddled in what she's supposed to represent and what kind of like force she is. Because in some cases she's like luring in men, and if like married men, and if they, interact with her and seem game, she kills them. And in the other one, she's just like indiscriminately killing children and men, women, and like everybody. And they're very disparate. Like, they have different aims and different methodologies and different kind of goals, it seems like. And that seems to come from this kind of split in the history of these different kind of antique folklore elements coming together in under one umbrella. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. Yeah,
It makes a lot of sense.
I am curious, like, what culturally has to happen to divide it between this one kills everybody and this one specifically goes for the husband who is committing adultery. I'm very curious.
That's the interesting thing is like it comes from the usage, because in the one, on one side it's this kind of don't go into the woods, you might not come back kind of precautionary
the
thing.
boogeyman,
yeah, it's this boogeyman, and on the other side you have this vengeful spirit of a scorned woman who is specifically targeting who she was wronged by.
I guess what I'm getting at is, was there a rash of infidelity that like generated the cultural energy that was required to create this version of the spirit? You know what I mean? Like,
gotcha. Yeah.
Was that what happened?
It seems like you can blame Cortez for that, because it's his scorned lover is the archetypical La Malinche.
So not a rash of infidelity, but one really crazy moment of infidelity, one especially intense infidelity.
This woman is tied to when Cortez basically sold out Spain in overall and like caused the colonization of Spain. So she is like viewed as this evil traitor because she sided with the invading force because of her lover. And then
crazy.
She got spurned there. And so like there's this whole thing, like there's a lot of interesting feminist literature and analysis of the La Llorona legend, because it's so steeped in like the scorned woman archetype and the kind of vengeful woman archetype. So there's a lot of like, you can find some of it's linked in the Library of Congress stuff I referenced earlier. But there's also, I wish I had her name off the top of my head. There's a woman that has done a lot of scholarly analysis of the legend under the feminist lens, which is really interesting to look at, because it's so like scapegoating women who were like sold to rich like noblemen. It's very it very much has that vibe to it. Those are the main places that it comes from. So I mentioned earlier that there's also this kind of twist in the legend where Catholicism and like Christian ideas come in, and that comes from the Spanish branch of things. Because at one point, some of the earlier writings that use the term La Llorona come from Jesuit priests in Spain. Let's see, I think it's in around 1850. So there's a text called El Pozo de la Llorona that was written by Jesuit priests in Spain, and actually was found to have traveled all the way to Mexico and been like the kind of missing link between these two different regional derivations of the thing. And so like you can find that's where the term La Llorona came from, was these Jesuit priests in Spain that then got transplanted through this text traveling across the Atlantic into Mexico, and then became like used across Mexico as the boogeyman. It's really an interesting like place for all of this. Like it's an interesting cross-pollination.
Yeah. You had also mentioned, and I think this kind of lines up, and I'm curious, you had said the most common like version of the story that you sort of told right at the outset. And I remember that the scorned woman, quote unquote, archetype in that original or more common telling's name is Maria, which to me would kind of make sense if you're starting to add the priestly sort of like component of like book, like, you know, talking about purity, talking about this, like, I don't know, like the tragedy of like Maria is sort of, I feel like you just say Maria in a lot of like circles of Catholicism. And even if it's just like a person's name or it is unrelated to it, like it is so seeped in as just like a concept. I feel like there's almost like a knee jerk reaction. And this is someone who's not Catholic, but I see a lot of Maria candles, a lot of Maria signs, a lot of Maria iconography.
Yeah. It's a good woman of note name. Like it's a good, and
it evokes the idea of somebody who didn't start out doing anything wrong. And the idea of taking a Maria and corrupting it is very, I can imagine, is very not tantalizing, but like I can see how that would engross a Catholic population, saying like there is a Maria that is now a demon that steals and kills children.
I did have this thought at the start of the episode of like, why is that? What is up with the name Mary, and why does it seem like it kind of has this like, if you're named Mary, there's more propensity to become a ghost type that feel to it. But now that you've said all that out loud, I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if that's the case, but I think you're probably right.
It has a lot of weight to it with the Virgin Mary and everything. Like,
that makes sense. No, you made a good point. I'm going to make a really bad one real quick. You said this was La Llorona. What was it? Con pollo?
With chicken.
La Llorona with chicken? Is that what, or what did you say they call it?
That was
Pollo de La Llorona, the chicken of
El Pozo de La Llorona.
Now, what's El Pozo? That's what I want to actually.
I believe it's just a story.
Story of.
I honestly don't have an exact here. Let me just find out.
Hey, Google.
Real quick.
Excuse me, Google.
Pozo.
Google.
The well.
Well.
So that's the well of the weeping woman.
Oh,
it was the story about it. Yeah. That would have been a good thing for me to look up earlier, but there you go. I did mention earlier the earliest recorded document that makes mention of this kind of, it doesn't use the term La Llorona, but people will trace back this mythology to a thing called the Florentine Codex, which is a 16th century document from approximately the 1550s that was from Spain. It was these various a Franciscan friar named Bernardino de Sahagún collected these accounts from Nahuatl speakers in Mexico while he was traveling there, and this is where the codex come from. So it is like the earliest you can trace these things back to for real, unless you go into the mythological approach of like Greek mythology and shit. Is this Florentine Codex, Book 12, from 1550s.
It's so sick that we have artifacts in real life called things like the Florentine Codex, because that sounds like a mythical drop in RuneScape, right, Collin? Like that sounds like something you could pick up there.
If you have it in your inventory, you can cast spectral thralls to increase your DPS with a minor allocation of prayer points.
See, I knew Collin would have a good addition for that, because Collin's the most deeply invested RuneScape player I know.
The ostrich with the fucking head in the sand, man. New endgame boss Yama comes out next week.
Hell yeah, dude. But honestly, how come we don't the iPhone. Nobody's going to look back at the iPhone historically speaking and be like, wow, that's a great name for an artifact. We need cool ass like tablet of Apple. Could be.
You just want to flip the words to a little Yoda.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
All right, Matt Hardy.
You know,
bucks of youth.
It could be like we just that would be a more interesting name, I think. Like historically speaking, if people are just like, I wonder what artifacts they had back then, and they're just seeing all this bullshit.
The iPod, instead of the iPod, we're looking at the infinite chasm of sounds.
Exactly.
I mean, that's pretty good.
You know, see, Collin, you know what I'm talking about. That would be a great name.
What about like the Music Blaster 2000?
But
like, I think that we go down a different direction.
It's too modern. It needs to sound like an artifact. It needs to sound like something that a wizard could use as their like spell casting, tome or something like that. That's what I'm saying. Is we need artifacts that have names that sound arcane and esoteric.
Fair enough. So I do have a bunch of sightings of La Llorona.
Okay.
That we can get into if we would like.
Yeah.
They really range from like just hearing noises all the way up to things that kind of are people will claim are mentally haunt them. Which I think is like it is really funny whenever you're looking around for sightings of these things, because so many sightings of La Llorona are just I heard something that sounded like a cry in the distance at night. And aren't there like multiple animals that have things that have noises that sound like humans crying?
Yes, screaming and crying. Yes, there are animals
Yeah.
that can do that. It is crazy to me though that you could be like, "Oh, I'm haunted," and people are like, "You're haunted," and you'd be like, "Well, not physically."
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Well, I just mean
Haunted
like
in
mentally
here, points at
scarring.
chest.
Like there's
I know. I'm just.
So-
messing.
I've got sightings from between like 1945 and like 2010. It's
Oh my God.
you can find so many sightings there. It's going to be mostly be quick hits because none of these sightings are super long or intensive. And we're going to start with one that I have here that took place in Texas. What I like about La Llorona is that the different sightings are kind of reflective of where you are and like the culture around you, because like a lot of the American ones feel a lot more like traditional like almost cryptid sightings where you just saw something weird at night, and then you get more interesting ones out of like Mexico and Spain and places that this folklore is a little more part of the culture. So this one takes place in Texas in 2008.
Let me guess. She was wearing a 10-gallon hat in this one.
That would be you think that would be a good way to go, but unfortunately it's not that enticing. It was just a family who was out hanging out, and it was this quiet night, and all of a sudden the dogs that they had outside started barking at something. The family all rushed outside to see what was going on, and they saw this crawling fog coming down by the river near their house. They noticed that it then got very cold, and it started to feel kind of strange. Like they said, an eerie feeling in the air. All of a sudden, there was a deafening shriek that lasted almost a full minute, after which the fog subsided and the dog started to relax. So it was just this 1 minute long scream along with fog.
Oh.
And this is considered a La Llorona sighting.
Huh. It's a bit banshee-like we, Collin was saying up front.
I like the banshee. I like the banshee story. I like my grandfather told me, and I'm not sure how much this is true if you all ran into this, but
Your
he
grandfather?
told me that
I don't think
my
I met him.
grandfather. You should. Great guy. He always liked to say that the banshee folklore was tied back to deer during mating season. There's a sound, if you've never heard a female white-tailed deer mewl before, that sounds like a woman screaming. Like exactly like a woman's being murdered. It's crazy. I've heard it multiple times.
I don't know whether because we did a banshee episode a while back, and I don't remember if we made that, if that came up or not, but that sounds right. I think there's other animals that can, like, I think certain types of rabbits make horrifying noises in the right conditions,
Right circumstances.
Yeah, and
coyotes,
and then,
like they're kind of yippy howls, that kind of
and like mountain lions, I think too. Now here's another thing that sort of like the transportation methodology thing I mentioned earlier about the delineating factor between funny and scary. Hats on a ghost is another curious one, I think, because obviously 10-gallon hat would be funny. I don't think I could be afraid of a ghost wearing a 10-gallon hat, or like a propeller beanie would be funny. Like you couldn't scare me if you were wearing a propeller beanie. But then it gets weirder if you like look at like what if they had like a tri-corner, like admiral's hat or whatever, because like it could on the one hand be like, I don't know, Civil War ghost but like you go too far in a certain direction, maybe color or something, then you start getting into Captain Crunch territory, and it just, I don't know. There's just it's a gradient, I guess, and I'm curious, when do we trip the line? That's all.
Yeah. I would hate for a ghost to look like Captain Crunch.
Same.
Can you fucking imagine?
It would suck.
I can't even look at the front of an actual box of Captain Crunch without screaming and shitting my pants. Like the idea of a ghostly apparition coming out of a fog bank looking like that crunchy demon. Oh god.
But would he still have the tiny little legs, or would he have like the kind of ghastly, tapered tail?
I think it's one of those things that you look below his waist and you both see legs and you see the absence of legs, and your brain sort of does that eldritch kind of like, trying to like parse an unparsable. That's part of what fills me with so much.
He's got the non-Euclidean kicks and gams. Although, that being said, a Captain Crunch with human proportions does seem terrifying.
Yeah, it's kind of, this is, oh God. There are certain characters that in trying to make them into a Fortnite skin get like made to look very strange. Like they had to when they wanted to put Morty in the game, they had to put him in like a fucking exoskeleton to make him the same
from Rick and Morty.
Yeah. I should have said that. But it's so literally it's like just the child Morty in like in almost like a fucking alien's exoskeleton, because otherwise he wouldn't be the same height as everyone else.
Yeah.
And it's so I just imagine if they made Captain Crunch into Fortnite, it would be pretty,
he would have to have the long
challenging.
Yeah, it'd be scary.
Yeah.
But maybe that's on the docket. They've done other shit that I've seen, like looking at like Peter Griffin in that game, or
they had to make him fucking svelte.
The Adventure Time characters all have like extra long legs, I think. So that would be the situation that Captain Crunch would have if he was some sort of malevolent spirit.
Or a Fortnite character.
Or a Fortnite character.
Either one.
Yes. I mean, same thing. Like Fortnite is full of malevolent spirits. I don't know if we all know this, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
There's
They're called
no other
teens.
explanation for it. We got him. So one of the earlier sightings that I found in terms of like, modern sightings, in the 1930s in the great state of New Mexico, there was a man who was out with his family. They were all gathered on their patio talking and having fun when they noticed a thin, tall lady dressed entirely in white. She was gliding over the landscape, and when she came to the river on their property, she somehow continued to float over top of that water. The man described it as she seemed to glide as if having no legs, much like Captain Crunch. And the specter then disappeared and reappeared twice before vanishing for good. They wanted to make it clear that this is a better sighting than some others, because the guy that is responsible for this sighting was the patriarch of a Catholic church, so he's more trustworthy than other people. Which is
they're
Kyle and I
the
like to
top
track.
Thing.
Yeah, Kyle and I love to track the how often it gets name checked that someone's account of a UFO or a cryptid or a ghost is more reputable because they hold a position of power in Western society, like cop or mayor or clergy, I guess, because it's so fucking common.
We love to fucking just get on our hands and knees for authority.
Yep. ACAB.
Turns out
all clergy are bastards.
That is, yes. Exactly. Yes. Thank you, Collin.
Welcome.
So let's get some sightings in actual Mexico, because so far a lot of the ones we talked about have been in the United States. So this is I thought this one was cute. I was looking around a bunch of different places for sightings because a lot of them were very samey. This one, it was submitted to an article for a newspaper in the Southwest by a 12-year-old named Daisy. And the subscript says specifically, Daisy is now 12 years old and truly believes that La Llorona is real. So I just wanted to share Daisy's encounter. My story of La Llorona takes place in Mexico. When I was 8 years old, my abuelita told me to go to the store to buy soda during the evening as we were getting ready to eat supper. My brother and I left for the store, and along the way we heard wailing, but we didn't pay much attention to it. However, as we continued on, we saw a young woman walking toward us. Suddenly, my little brother started to cry, and the woman ran toward him, acting as if she was going to get him. When we saw that she was floating instead of walking, we began to run back to our house and told our grandmother and mom what had happened. We locked the door and prayed to God to help us and make La Llorona disappear. So I like that she's still out there terrifying children. And I like, there's something about an account from an actual child that is charming to me. in a way that a lot of other ones aren't, because I fully believe that this child thinks like, I fully believe that she's trying to give you the best thing that she saw, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're a kid. You saw a thing, got scared, ran away. It was La Llorona. Maybe it was just a dress that touched the ground. You couldn't see her feet. And maybe you just heard about La Llorona on the playground the other day. But like, who knows? You're a kid. It fucking scared you. Like being able to share that and like make a story is like part of what makes us people. We have stuff that we don't know. We compartmentalize it. We contextualize it, and we try and move on. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It is cute.
I also really love for whatever reason, it's always really funny to me when when like somebody is like praying to God to basically deal with one specific thing or person, because then I like to picture God reaching down from the heavens and just like picking up La Llorona and just being like crushing La Llorona in his hand and saving that family, at least in that instance. You
What's
know,
that
like
game,
like a crane game or.
No, but it's the old video game where you literally play like a god. You can like have a little hand. You can go pick up villagers and like talk to them.
Oh, Black and White?
Black and White.
What? I don't know this.
There's an old computer game. There's but Black and White and Black and White too. You pretty much play God and like manipulate, citizens and build a little culture. And
I used to see that in the Target video game aisle right next to like StarCraft.
yeah,
Oh my God.
StarCraft and Warcraft War Chest, you know?
Mhm.
I don't remember.
right
this.
around that time frame.
Maybe if I saw the cover, I'd remember it. But that is basically what I picture whenever somebody's just like, God, please take care of this one person.
If you're as somebody who knows, as a known Germa fan, there's he has some good streams of Black and White if you want to go figure out what the game is and consume some old Germa.
He gets very obsessed with the cow in that
he does.
stream.
It's very funny.
fantastic.
It's hysterical.
So this is a bit indulgent, but this is a total tangent that I went down while doing research for this episode, and I want to register this, and it'll make sense why in a second. So I was looking at this article on a website called Ancient Origins. They do a lot of stuff. You'll come across them you look up conspiracy stuff pretty regularly. They're pretty out there. But this was kind of an expose thing on La Llorona and its history, and specifically it was the expert that they were citing is a guy named Christopher Chacon, who is, depending on where you look online, he is referred to as either a magician, a paranormal investigator, or at some cases a parapsychologist, Kyle. And so most places now it's paranormal investigator or researcher. But in Google, it literally, the first thing that pops up is that he's a magician, which I find entertaining. But he was the expert kind of that was doing the research for this website's coverage. What I didn't realize, I decided to go and look into who Christopher Chacon was because I didn't recognize the name off the top of my head. And one of his big credits is that he co-created a Canadian sci-fi drama called the PSI Files. But his co-creator is a man by the name of Peter Ackroyd. And yes, that is the brother of the guy that hosts. There is a host to this network site. Like the Canadian X-Files has a host, and that host is Dan Aykroyd.
What the fuck?
So for some reason, there is a host to this show that is a scripted paranormal investigative drama. And so I now am going to, I know that we already have like a poll or whatever going, but I need to look into if this show is available, because if it is, we need to put it on our poll for It Gets Weird TV.
How the fuck have I never heard of that?
Because it's a Canadian show that ran for like 5 seasons.
Oh shit.
So it's got some pedigree behind it.
Yeah, it's like 96 to 2000.
Wow.
So it was like running side by side with the X-Files.
That's crazy.
Which is just fascinating to me. So the actual article was fine. Like he did a big kind of survey of people of La Llorona sightings, and was coming to a lot of conclusions that you'd find elsewhere on the internet as well. But I had to bring up the fact that this show existed because I now need to find clips of it, at least, if not find it streaming somewhere to watch some episodes of it. So yeah, Sci-Files. We're gonna expect to hear more about that in the future with this podcast. Okay, I think we're gonna do one last little story before we wrap this up and get to a big question. This one is just kind of, a lot of them didn't have specific dates to them that I was finding. They just are these things that get passed down in the oral tradition, and the specific places and everything are a little vague. So this one involves a man by the name of Epifanio Garcia, who was an outspoken boy who often argued with his mother and father. After this heated argument, Epifanio and his brothers decided to leave the ranch in Ojo de la Vaca to head toward the Via Real de Santa Fe. However, as they went along their way, they started to see this tall woman wearing a black tapalo, which I think is a type of head covering, and a black net over her face. Two boys were riding in front of the wagon when the spirit appeared on the seat between them. She was silent and continued to sit there until Epifanio finally turned the horses around and started to head back home, at which time she said, "I will visit you again someday when you argue with your mother." This one is the most like scare your children version that I've found.
Yeah.
Like the most specifically like warning them to not disrespect your mother. It's fantastic.
That is
It's like
really
a-
good.
It's like a ghost showing up and telling you, like, and if you don't blow your nose, it's like, just like, if you disobey your mother, if you argue with mom, like it's such low stakes, like things that all kids do.
You better
argue
brush
with
your
their
teeth
parents.
tonight, or I will be creeping out of your closet this
Right?
very evening.
And I'm gonna spook the shit out of you.
I'm gonna scare the fuck out of you. And that's what
Like,
she says. She says, "Fuck."
I'm honestly, she's potty mouth. I am honestly kind of like for telling kids stories to keep them from doing wildly dangerous stuff, as long as it keeps them from hurting themselves because they don't know. Telling your kids scary shit that's gonna fuck up their sleep and maybe give them like long running PTSD for a thing that you made up so that you could make your life easier because they're being argumentative or they're not like going to bed well is a completely different monster for me.
Yeah.
If you're trying to tell a story about like why you don't jump on stairs, it's like that could very really hurt you, or why you don't like play in the chemicals under the sink. Like, I don't know, like things that could kill you. That's a different monster than brushing your teeth.
So where do you fall on the hook-handed man from Arrested Development in terms of that scale? That's why you should always leave a note.
Yeah,
you know?
the leave a note one, that one's maybe a little bit too much. I think he should have had a hook, but it shouldn't have been on his hand. The body horror is where I draw the line.
Sure.
Okay.
And where do you stand on
That's a
them
good
telling the story and La Llorona says fuck? Like, is that you support that? So you think, teach them the bad words young, and because it's a scary ghost saying it, who you should not, follow the example of. You go, oh, I shouldn't
100%.
say fuck because La Llorona says it when she's coming to get me.
No. I like the pro curse. Like, I don't know if y'all have ever heard a toddler curse. It's really
It
funny.
is funny, yeah.
It's insanely funny. So I'm very pro cursing toddlers. I know that school doesn't like it, and some people like clutch their pearls. But I'm really looking forward to the first day that Henry like drops something on the ground and goes, shit. Like, that's going to make me bust up. It's going to be fucking great.
Kids swearing is an all-time funny thing.
Oh, it's so funny.
It is always funny. When I apparently my family always tells this story, but apparently when I was very young, like toddler or maybe younger, my grandfather drove me to like Target for some reason. Like, my grandfather was watching me, and some guy cut him off in the parking lot, and he called him an asshole. So when they were when he was walking around with me in Target, I was just calling every single person I saw an asshole.
Be so funny. Can you imagine walking through a Target and a little toddler's pointing at a stranger and saying, asshole?
Yeah,
I haven't changed much.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in a Target with you, and it's not that different of an experience now. So,
shot across the bow.
Do you guys want to do a big question?
Absolutely.
I would love that.
Okay. So I was inspired by the name The Weeping Woman. And I wanted to ask, if you were a ghost that was to be represented by some form of emotional outpouring, weeping, shouting, etc., what type of ghost would you be?
Ooh.
Give me that one more time. No, one more time.
So if if you were to become a ghost that was you modified by some emotional outpouring word, weeping, shouting, etc.
Got it.
What would your emotional ghost form be?
Okay.
You know, I think I'd probably be the laughing man. And I would hack into all the cybernetic systems and all the cybernetic systems that are attached to people's minds that they've cyberized. And I would hack politicians. And I'd have this laughing face logo that I would imprint onto everybody.
All right, Ed.
Hey, no, Ghost in the Shell. Thank you very much. Not Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, Ghost in the Shell.
You were in the right. You know, you knew it was anime.
Look, it's been a minute. But doesn't Ed have
Ed
a
has,
hacker? That's
yes, Ed does have a little thing, but
smiling face.
The laughing man was the big notorious hacker from Standalone Complex.
Okay.
I don't know, laughing man. That's my first pitch, laughing man. That's the one I look. I would like to think that if I were to become a vengeful ghost, I would be funny about it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd be kind of a joker.
Yes.
It's there are a lot of ghosts out there that wail, that scream, that shout, etc. Not a lot of ghosts that just chuckle in the distance. Right. You know
exactly.
So I think
this is another thing where there is a line you could step between the laughter being funny and it being sinister. And that's kind of what I want to straddle as a ghost is ooh, is this thing being funny? And then eventually it's oh shit, no, it's sinister and it's going to get me.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, this is just another little thing that I just thought of that I one of the things that I found in terms of the sounds this thing makes, supposedly the closer the weeping woman gets to you, the further away her crying sounds like it is. So it has a reverse Doppler effect kind of thing where it's
pretty cool.
The closer she gets to you, the more it sounds like it's coming from some place far away. I guess so she can sneak up on you.
Finally, actually,
and you don't know where she is.
The Doppler effect in effect. That's crazy. Collin, I don't know if you know this, but we would bring up a thing, an idea, a phenomenon on the show, and I would always say, "Oh, it's the Doppler effect." This is the first time it's actually a Doppler effect.
Really, a Doppler effect?
Yeah. We get kind of a reverse.
Life imitates
Doppler
art
effect here.
But that's actually, I do like that a lot. I like that as a mythology, a world building. that's got some Dungeons and Dragons monster manual shit.
Does.
That's some good. That's some good. I imagine playing a horror game, an immersive sound, first person horror game, and that there's a monster that if it sounds like it's really close, you have space, but if it sounds like it's really far away, it might be right around the corner to fuck with your perception and expectation. That's a good spooky concept. Whoever thought of that was cooking. I'm not sure what time period, who thought that one up, but they were on something.
It started to appear later, as far as I could tell. But I think it would be great if you're playing a horror game and most enemies work normally, and then you get to a point where there's just a new enemy type that works that way, and it just the first time you encounter it, you just shit your pants. It would be so good. It would be so good.
And you've got to kind of learn that, unlearn that just through trial and error and realizing that that's a good call.
Not the same thing exactly, but probably the most hilarious / terrifying gaming experience I've had in recent memory was playing oh my god, what's the game where you're space truckers and you go onto planets and restock your ship and stuff, and there's monsters. It's a popular game. You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name right now, but I played that with some friends and we had a mod.
Lethal Company?
Yeah, Lethal Company. Yes, that's it. And there was a mod. I don't know if this is in the game or not, or if it was just a mod, but we had a thing where a person, you know how the monsters in that game, it's all proximity mic stuff, so it'll pick up what you're saying, and if you make noise, sometimes monsters will come after you or whatever. There was a thing where a monster would record the final audio moments of people it attacked and then play it back at so the monster would be walking around with your friend's voice. And it was it was
rad.
fucking, I thought my friend was nearby. And then once it looped 3 more times, the same voice 3 times, I was like, oh fuck, it's a monster. And it scared the shit out of me. It was great. Anyways.
That's awesome.
That's a good one. It's another good little design. Someone's cooking.
So I think I would be the mumbling ghost. I think that a lot of things go for loud. A lot of things go for big. I think going the opposite. I'm gonna Jake the Snake Roberts this shit and make you really lean in to listen to me, and kind of go antithetical to a lot of the other ghosts out there.
This is going to be the only ghost where you're going to have to turn captions on in real life to catch what they're saying. And I just, for the listener at home, when Niall's not on mic, you can't understand anything Niall's fucking saying. Imperceptible. Niall, this is the loudest Niall gets. So it's true to life too, I should just say.
Yeah.
As soon as we're done recording here, it's gonna be like, Niall's gonna be like, we're gonna be like, what?
Thanks for coming in and doing a show with me.
I turn my mic up even louder when I'm not recording so that people can hear me. Yeah.
Hey, I'm done recording. You want to get some dinner?
That's exactly what it's like. Good one, Collin.
Thanks.
That's what it's like.
Man, Niall, same wavelength. I was gonna say mumbler because I agree. I like the idea of going into your house, and my mental image, and I'm gonna try and think of another one. I'm doing this, but my whole spiel has just been upended. But maybe great minds. I had this idea.
I think we can permutate.
Yeah, let's. I'm gonna keep the mumbler. My idea of how I would want to spook somebody is I would wait for them to leave, and they have a sink full of dirty dishes, right? And when they start coming back, they just hear water running, dishes being washed. What? I'm not home. Did I leave the sink on? Like, what's happening? They turn around the corner. My ghostly form is actively doing the dishes, and I'm doing that like mumble / like deep sigh when you like want somebody to ask what's wrong because you've had like a really long day and you're kind of like frustrated, but like the housework is like recentering you, but you're still like, and it's just, I can't believe that.
Yeah,
every day, 8 a.m. every day, and like they're just like looking around the corner, and then I kind of turn around and look at them. And like turn back around and keep washing dishes.
Would be so scary.
It'd be fucking spooky, right?
Yeah. I love a ghost that when it notices a human just goes back to its business.
Yeah.
That holds some power, I gotta say.
That I also just love the idea of being the ghost that causes like couples, like childless couples who are just hanging out at the house to go, what'd you say? And the other one goes, I didn't say anything. And then they just go back to what they're doing. That's a mumbling ghost would be the number one cause of that incident.
Yeah.
You just sort of sneak up behind the couch and go,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Fist pump and float through a wall. Yes, got him.
Yeah, this ghost, much like in Monsters, Inc., they go from harvesting scares to laughs. This ghost isn't out to kill people; it's just out to cause divorces. It's a real shift in goals.
It's also the number one ghost on SoundCloud rap doing mumblecore. Is that still a thing?
Yeah,
I think
people still like that. God, you put a gun to my head. I couldn't tell you what mumble rap actually is. I'll be honest. Mumblecore. I don't know. I just heard the phrase, the word.
Yeah, I don't think I could do any better than you, so I'm not gonna try because hey, if I can't do it well, why would I try?
Exactly. Exactly.
That's brave. So brave.
All right. Well, do you want to take care of business?
Yeah, let's take care of some business.
Do you want to let Collin plug first?
Yeah. Collin, if you want to just take a moment here to plug whatever you want to plug, you can say whatever the hell you want right now. We're not even going to censor it.
Hell yeah. Okay, then I want to start off by saying a good bit that I've had in my head since we first got introduced to La Llorona is I've been going, my Sharona, but as La Llorona in my head. And I didn't think it was good enough to bring up in the podcast, but now that I'm given an open forum, throwing that out to the world. The other thing that I want to bring up is that I do a podcast called Pop Culture Roll Call. Now, Kyle have both been guests multiple times. We've been going for a long time. We jump around from TV show to TV show, have a back catalog that includes the like of Buffy and Angel and Orphan Black, and we're currently doing Kevin Can Buck Himself. We did Gravity Falls. So if any of those shows sound like something you'd like to hear a couple of yahoos come in and do a special format on, because our format is that each one of our hosts watch the entire show from a single character's perspective, and our lovely producers go through and edit every single episode of television to remove anything that our character was not present for or did not hear. And then we get together and talk about what actually happened that episode. Most of the time, none of us have seen the show. Super fun. You can find us at popculturerollcall.libsyn.com or patreon.com/popculturerollcall.
Pop Culture Roll Call is an all-timer show. And if you don't listen to it, 1, what are you doing? 2, fuck you, idiot. 3, they're our sister podcast. I haven't said that in like forever. But to be clear, true. Pop Culture Roll Call is the sister podcast to It Gets Weird. So you are, if you're listening to this right now, you're obligated to also listen to Pop Culture Roll Call. I don't make the rules, I just enforce them.
Because as everyone knows, if you have a friend and that friend has a sibling, you have to be friend with your friend's sibling.
Yes. Yeah. It's a lot like that. That's true. It's a lot like that. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I think about this occasionally. We actually started around the same time. So our
I think you all were like a couple months earlier.
Yeah,
than
just
us,
a little bit. But so our anniversaries are around the same time. So we're growing up together as podcasters in a way.
We've both been doing weekly podcast releases. We started within probably 4 to 6 months of each other and have been going for 7, 8 years.
We're coming up on fucking 9 years, Collin.
9 years?
9. Pretty sure.
Where do we find the time?
I know. It's
I ask myself that regularly.
Never have a good answer.
Well, everybody out there has to listen to Pop Culture Roll Call. Check it out. It's a great show. And we love and we respect all of the members over there at Pop Culture Roll Call. So please give them a listen.
Yeah.
As for us jagoffs, Niall, you wanna run through it with me?
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/itgetsweirdpodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're almost certainly there.
We're also on Blue Sky at It Gets Weird. I'm kind of becoming very alienated from social media, just generally speaking, but we are there if you want to find us there. Actually, having Collin on the show, we've also been promoting twitch.tv/itgetsweird. Collin and I have been playing Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke every week that we have, the time to do so in our busy lives. But it's super fun. Please give us a follow over there as well. It's been a great time. Collin is basically my sage, my advisor during the run, because I'm realizing as you play with me, Collin, I'm not very good at Pokemon. You're very good at Pokemon.
You play Pokemon like everyone grew up playing Pokemon.
Yes.
You have not changed how those gears turn.
Yes.
I have been playing Nuzlocke as the only way I play Pokemon for over a decade. My brain doesn't work in the old find powerful move, spam powerful move win game anymore. My brain works in I have 6 wiki tabs open and 3 DPS calculators. That's the way my brain plays Pokemon, because I'm an adult with, I'm sure, something going on up there.
Yeah, and it's been a really good run so far. We have lost 2 beautiful soldiers. The Hypno that we named Yuri Geller is dead and gone.
Oh, no.
Rest in peace. Couldn't happen to a worse person.
That was what in our chat they said couldn't have happened to a worse person.
I think it was Cincy. I'm not sure who, but shout out to a real one who said it.
And then we had a Geodude, and I don't remember Geodude's nickname because they didn't matter.
He died. Well, he did. Geodude mattered a lot. Just died very soon.
That's exactly.
We are still suffering the repercussions of not having a resistance to normal type attacks.
Yes. So check us out, twitch.tv/itgetsweird. Also, we have an email. Email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. We love your emails. We love to get your emails if they're good. We haven't really had a bad one yet. Not really. We've had, there's been 2 or 3. But outside of those, we're getting great emails from people. If you have something cool to tell us about or information for us or whatever, hit us up. Just let us know how we should address you, and we'll probably read your email out on the show if it's good. Now, most important place that you can support us, patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier. The $1 tier is just a tip tier. It's just a, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's a $1 tier. But we do have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At those tiers, you're going to get bonus content. At the $2 tier, we have It Gets Weird TV, where every other week, Niall and I are talking about weird television. The next series has yet to be determined because people get to vote on it. The people who have donated to our Patreon at the $2 tier, the $5 tier, get to vote on the show that we watch next. If you want even more bang for your buck, though, we have a $5 tier. At the $5 tier, you get another show in the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV called World of Weird, where Niall and I talk about whatever the fuck we want to talk about. A lot of times it's movies, it's music, it's comics. It's also occasionally we talk about UFO stuff and conspiracy stuff and just shit that we got going on. And it's a super fun, super casual show. So at the $5 tier, you're going to get all that bonus content, plus a huge back catalog of bonus content. Whether you donate at the $2 tier, the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday on your own private Patreon feed. And you get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, chatting with our listeners directly. It's the best place to reach us is by donating to the Patreon, because you can just chat with us about conspiracies and UFOs and Bigfoot and shit. But if you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast. Collin, thank you for coming on our show.
Thanks for having me. Fucking blast every single time. Love you guys.
We love you too.
So without knowing it, Garrett has given us a perfect button for this episode, because to tie it all back together, Garrett sent a photo into a group chat that Kyle is also in, that is a vanity license plate that is just the words Mrs. and then the letters PP. So shouts out to the Michigan driver with the Mrs. PP license plate. This has been It Gets Weird. Thank you all for listening. We really love your support. Thank you and good night.
I'm Kyle signing out.
Peace.